Hey folks, thank you for joining us. This is Henry Rogers here in front of the White House, where we are joined by a group of Antifa as well as a large group of white supremacists led by Richard Spenser. Richard Spenser sent out a tweet about 16, 17 hours ago announcing that he would be protesting in front of the White House about the Kate Steinle verdict. Now, you know that Kate Steinle was killed by an illegal immigrant in California, and Richard Spenser and his people were not too happy about this. This led to what we're seeing right now, folks, and this is hundreds of people here, as you can see, in front of the White House. And here you can see the group of Richard Spencers, I don't even know what to call them, white supremacists, alt-right. Some people are calling them Nazis right now. I mean, I don't know. It's these groups of people. You can see they're waving flags around. And I guess they're going to try to get their message across here. But there's a lot of police, folks, a lot of police. The police are coming in hot, and they're coming in by the second. I guess they're gonna try to get in between these two groups and form a line so that there can be no violence in front of the White House. Again, this is a very, very interesting place to have a rally with these two groups who absolutely hate each other. As you can see here, large presence of Antifa. People are kind of just rolling up too, so we expect this to get a little bit bigger. So you can see the masks, a classic Antifa sign there. They cover their faces. We don't really know why that is, but they do. And you can see here cops just kind of flooding in and forming this barrier between the two groups. You see him just screaming and putting back on a bandana, screaming at the white supremacists. So, folks, Richard Spenser, he's probably going to be speaking here in a couple minutes, and his message is not clear, but it will have something to do with what he's calling Kate's Wall. Now, he wants President Trump to build the wall, and he's calling for the wall to be built, and he's calling it Kate's Wall due to the murder of Kate Steinle. He wants more justice. Now you're seeing the crowd here. There's actually some children in the crowd holding up signs. You can see the white supremacists are holding up a sign that says, "Build Kate's Wall." So this is kind of their theme that they are going on today. And here you go. Here's Spenser speaking. He's shouting into a microphone. And again, folks, we're in front of the White House here, where Richard Spenser is now shouting into a microphone at a large opposition of Antifa members. It's kind of hard to hear what he's saying because of the volume coming from these Antifa members. I mean, they're screaming. Listen to this, folks. It's just an all-out shouting match. I mean, it really is. So we have two sides. We have Antifa, and we have a group of alt-right white supremacists over here who are being led by Richard Spenser. Richard Spenser is basically the alt-right leader who has made his name for Charlottesville and a lot of other controversial issues across the country. Now, these people hate Spenser. Look at this. Look at these people. And they are not the only people who hate Spenser. He is a very controversial figure in the country. So here you go. There's no violence going on yet. But there is a straight shouting match going on here. I mean, people are angry. Again, this is Henry Rogers with the Daily Caller News Foundation, and we're in front of the White House here, where these two groups will not stop clashing. The police have now put in barriers, physical barriers, as well as, and they're also formed a line behind the barriers to prevent any of the groups from coming at each other. Picture this going on right in front of the White House, folks. Right in front of the White House. Richard Spenser's kind of, hiding behind his friends here. And it's just kind of a shouting match. That's really what's going on. It's just a shouting match. The left is not listening to the right, and it's just kind of signs and waving. So, I mean, look at this, folks. This is in front of the White House shouting match. Antifa here. They look like they're ready to fight. Now, we've covered a lot of protests, and as you can see, another sign here, builds Kate's wall. We've covered a lot of protests, and Antifa seems geared up, ready to go. Now, will it be possible with this type of police presence? I don't know. I don't think so. But you never know. You never know with Antifa. They're known for some drastic. As you can see, some people hugging there. So I guess they feel that they are getting their message across. And I might mention that not all of these people are Antifa. As you can see, there are some people who are kind of just flooding in here, who I guess have seen either the tweets, heard about it, or might have just been walking past the White House and decided that they would chime in here. Richard Spenser, folks, I don't know where they're planning on going after this, but we'll be sure to follow him. I don't know when they're planning on leaving. So you see, you got these Antifa guys. Some of them have biker helmets on. Basically, this is what they call their gear. And I don't see any weapons yet, but they usually do have some sort of clubs or bats we've seen. But we see a lot of backpacks here. Every one of these guys has a backpack on and a face mask and a hoodie. And they're wearing all black. I don't know. This is a suspicious crowd, to say the least. There's the shot. They are blaming, so the Antifa is now saying, you killed Heather Heyer. Now, Heather Heyer was, of course, the woman who was tragically killed in Charlottesville, Virginia on August 12th at the protest down there, and we all know about that. She was killed by a member of the alt-right in a car. The Daily Caller News Foundation was on the ground there and covered that. But the group is screaming, it's just a screaming war right now. That's really what it is. Look at this, folks. So we have a big sign here. I think it says anti-fascism, end white supremacy. A lot of those signs. I mean, imagine just some of the tourists here. You were just on the ground. You're walking by, just a normal stroll past the White House, and they're running into this. I mean, this looks like a war zone kind of. This is intense. Hundreds of people here gathered right in front of the White House, flashing. Now you can see some people are actually coming up to ask the Antifa members what's going on here. And look at these guys. The boys in blue are here and they are protecting and serving. That is for sure. I mean, they're not even letting the press, get over to the other side. They're making sure that this barricade is locked. Now, I don't know if any of this police response. Look at this. It's a shouting match, yeah. Some of the crowd here even yelling at the police officers. Some of these protesters here are now yelling. So I don't know if you can hear this, folks, but the protesters are now calling out some of the cops who are of different color, and they're telling the cops that they are wrong for protecting one side when they are just simply clearly just trying to make sure that nothing happens between these two groups. But the police here are taking heat for trying to prevent some violence in front of the White House here in our nation's capital. Large media presence. And again, folks, this is based on a tweet Richard Spenser sent out about 16 hours ago. And then it was followed up by a Facebook group that Antifa created and invited a lot of people to, and here we are. Very similar chants being heard, middle fingers being thrown. You cannot hear what Richard Spenser and his group is saying. I mean, they're being completely shut out by this group of Antifa here. It is very possible something can happen. Again, folks, the police are doing a great job. This is much different than Charlottesville. I will tell you that. The presence here, and we are in front of the White House, so that makes sense. But I think they know what these two groups are capable of, and especially when they're near each other, it is not good. So they're trying their best, and they're doing their best to separate it. You can see that physical border that was placed in between them. So they're chanting "Go home, Nazi scum," calling Richard Spenser and his group Nazis. That's a term that they've been putting on these people. I don't think they're wrong. But folks, you're kind of you might be wondering, like, one of these groups got to stop shouting at each other. I don't know what they're accomplishing here. What do they think they're accomplishing? We're in front of the White House here. We're covering a Richard Spenser rally that has now been met with a counter-protest with a group of Antifa. So we got Antifa and we got a group of Richard Spenser supporters here, and they are speaking their message about the Kate Steinle verdict that happened this past week in California, where the murderer got away with the murder. Now, if you look around here, I mean, some of these masks are pretty intense. You can't see any of their faces, all black. And also, I don't know exactly, I don't think it should be illegal, but why are they wearing them? Why are they allowed to wear them? Because, I mean, obviously it's hard to see and identify anybody here. I mean, if something were to happen to me or anybody here, you couldn't identify these people. Their faces are completely covered. I mean, some of them are wearing gloves. You can't even see what color, what color skin they are. So we have on one side Richard Spenser's group. It's probably a group of like 20 over there with the American flags. You can see the shot. And over here, folks, we can see Antifa. Now it's probably a group of about, I would say, 50, 75 people. We have this U.S. Secret Service here. We got the horse on police, the police on horse, Capitol Police there. So I mean, we have a serious police turnout here, who I guess were expecting this. Spenser supposedly applied for a permit in the park right in front of the White House, but they've kind of made their way into the street in front of the White House. We have a Secret Service guy on the roof with a high-power rifle, kind of overlooking the scene of the White House. He's just, you know, with his binoculars. And then we have these groups. Now we're trying to get through the crowd here. See if we can give you a good shot of the right. Oh.
I'm calling on you, Donald Trump. Disgrace the Queen.
No, he is not happy, folks.
But you are president.
We've seen this guy kind of having a shouting match with them.
Life meaningful. You need to want that song.
Now you can hear the right kind of responding. Ooh. So as you can see, folks, Richard Spenser is screaming into his megaphone there, trying to get his voice heard, trying to be heard, but the left is screaming over him. You know, no one can hear this guy. I don't know if you can hear him. So they're chanting, Antifa's chanting. We got some fists being thrown in the air. Police are kind of chatting here. I guess they're going to try to figure out what to do, or if they're going to continue to just hold the line here. We don't know if these groups will be forced out in front of the White House or not. Again, I mean, this is a serious threat, I guess, to the White House security. I mean, you got all these people in masks in front of the most important building in the world.
Nazi punks, fuck off! Fuck off! Who's next?
Again, I'd like to give this shout out to the police today, who've been getting brutalized. Ooh.
Fascist scum! Go home! Fascist! Fascist scum! Go home to your tiny little basement and clear away on
Folks, again, if you're just joining us now, we are in front of the White House where two groups are clashing. Antifa and an alt-right group here are clashing. Now the police are making a move here, you can see. The police are making a move here, folks, as you can see. I don't really know what's going on, but the barricade is still up, but there are some police who are going behind the group here. I don't know if the group is planning on maybe leaving soon, and if they're going to follow them, or if they're just rotating out some people here. Spenser is back speaking. Now, yes, so again, those police officers are now actually behind. You can see that the officers who are in front of the group are behind them now, kind of making a semicircle around the group. So they have this thing locked down, folks. Absolutely locked down. You can see middle fingers. Nice words being exchanged there. And it's just kind of a shouting match. These guys, some of them are getting their they're getting their arguments in, and some of them aren't. The right's kind of just picking arguments that they want to use here. So something might be happening, folks. If you look closely here, the police are kind of talking and there's some movement going on. I don't know what exactly. Again, it could be that this group is going to we don't know what's going to happen. But I mean, this group could walk. Potentially, they could shut down the streets of Washington. I mean, we've seen it before. Antifa's done it before. So we'll see. We're going to continue to monitor this, folks. Now, these faces are very familiar from Charlottesville, from the alt-right. As you know, Richard Spenser was down there and hosted the rally down there in Charlottesville on August 12th, which led to one dead and several injured. It was a gruesome, horrific scene. A 200-page bombshell report was released Friday, basically detailing the lack of police presence in Charlottesville and also detailing some of the plans that were made and changed the day before the rally. If I have a chance to, I'm going to ask Richard Spenser what he thinks about that police report. So, folks, again, this is in front of the White House. Something's going on. You can see the groups are moving. Uh-oh. All right, so they're saying bye. Everyone's waving. Gave him a kiss. They're on a move. They're on the move. Look at this, folks. We're going to try to follow this group. I'm going to chase these guys down, and I'm going to... Here we are. Here we are. Here we are. So I'm just going to continue to follow these guys. We're going to walk down here. This is the white. This is the police are telling us to. They're telling us to back up. They're not gonna let us get close to these guys. But where are they walking to? That's the question. Where are these guys planning on going? And Richard Spenser is somewhere in the middle of this group here. So these are Richard Spenser's buddies and alt-right figures. As you can see, the press we're trying to get in here, ask these guys some questions. Spenser is in the middle of this, walking away from Antifa. So Antifa still has that barricade that you all saw minutes ago. That's still blocking them off. You can see the flags in the background there. But here we are. The alt-right group is still walking. We're passing the executive office building here. Police are pushing us back to make sure that that no one is interfering with these people, that no violence is stirred up. I mean, that's obviously their goal here. Is they just don't want anybody to touch anyone here. In a second, I'll shoot it over to my colleague Philip Stuckey, who's going to be with the Antifa. Where he's over there, he's still with the Antifa crowd. But we're going to see what's going on here. So here we go. Antifa's over there, still just screaming as Spenser walks away. My colleague Philip Stuckey is over here, and they're basically just waving the group away. As you can see from his footage here, they're basically claiming a victory. This is a win for them. They think they got their message across, and basically forced Richard Spenser and his group to walk away from his own event. So that's kind of what you're hearing from this side right now. You're kind of hearing cheers and a lot of F-bombs. But that's what's going on with Antifa. I'm going to continue to track down the Richard Spenser crowd here. And we're going to take it back to my camera shot in a sec. But we just want to see kind of if anything happens with these Antifa guys. Maybe to see if they're going to try to follow them somehow or pick up any plans here. Or maybe if they just called it. But here you are. I'm going to try to ask these guys some questions. We're back, though.
Folks, let's go. Media, if you're not with the group, let's go.
I'm a little too close. The police don't want me this close. They're telling me to back up, back up, back up.
Step out. Step out. Step out. Step out. Sir, get out. Step out. Step out. Step out. Sir, make it right. Right here.
Now these guys are all very familiar looking people from the Charlottesville rally that the Daily Caller News Foundation was present for. We covered that thoroughly.
Step out.
You can see the American flags here being held up. Richard Spenser kind of in the middle of this group being kind of protected, you can say. And then a line of police kind of pushing us back here. And we don't know where this group is going, folks. We have no idea. So we're going to find out. We're going to continue to follow this group. Richard Spenser's in the heart of the middle here of this group, probably giving orders. We don't know. I'm trying to get a shout out here. I'm trying to shout at Richard Spenser, someone. I want someone to answer some of my questions here. Behind me, though, folks, police are shutting down the streets.
Got your poles behind you.
You can hear them. You can hear them talking in the radios. They're saying, "Shut down the streets."
Whose streets? Our streets. Whose streets? Our streets. Whose streets? Our streets.
Here we are back in Antifa headquarters for now, until they get removed. With Philip Stuckey, who's filming this. They're kind of just celebrating. They're celebrating that the fact that Richard Spenser is now no longer in front of the White House. They are marching down the DC streets. You got Black Lives Matter present. You got Antifa present. And to them, this is a victory. We don't know if they're going to follow along. And it doesn't look like they are. That police border that we've been talking about, that barricade is up. You can see the yellow caution tape. So police are doing everything possible to make sure that these groups do not interact with each other.
Say it loud, say it clear.
They are completely surrounded except for the one side I guess they would like them to exit from eventually. But they are completely surrounded.
Say it clear. Say it loud, say it clear.
In just a minute, we're going to go right back to Richard Spenser to see where they're walking and what their plans are. The police are completely shutting down the streets in front of them. And if you know, being in D.C., if you shut down one street in D.C., every street gets backed up here. So this is just a mess. Look at this crowd, though, folks, here. So here we are, folks. We're walking, streets blocking, streets getting blocked off. We're walking backwards here, trying to follow this group, trying to get these shots in for you guys. I mean, this is just, it's quite an interesting sight to see. I mean, you got a bunch of so-called Nazis walking down the streets with American flags with in front of the White House, and here you are. The police are forming a line in front of the group to provide some sort of protection from the people who are trying to hurt them.
Her killer was found.
So we're trying to see if we can get to Richard Spenser, ask him some questions. He's somewhere in the middle of this crowd. Now you can hear the cops kind of telling me to get back a little bit. I'm getting a little close here, but hey, there you go. That's just giving a little in your face.
Let's go. Keep it moving. Let's go.
Why are you guys leaving so early?
Watch the polls.
So he thinks they got their message.
Like what?
They got their message through. I asked him a question. I said, "Do you feel like you guys got your message accomplished today?" He thinks they got their message through. Now look at this, folks. The streets are shut down. I mean, these guys are holding their American flags and walking down the streets of D.C., passing the Renwick Art Gallery here, right next to the White House. This is Richard Spenser's group. There's not really a name for it. It's just like, I guess, like a fanboy posse here. Antifa calls them Nazis. People call them white supremacists, fascists, A lot of different terms being thrown around today. But look at this, folks. I mean, we have a large police presence and probably a group of about, I would say, 20 to 40 white supremacists here in the middle. Richard Spenser somewhere in there. Cops are keeping me at a good distance, probably like a 5-foot distance here between me and them. Maybe a little more, honestly. They're giving these guys some room. We'll let you hear what they got to say. Look at this, folks. Look at all these cops. These are the streets of Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. Look at this. I mean, look at this group of people.
Back up. Keep walking, please.
Look at this group of people, folks. I mean, this is so right in front of me, there's a police line. And then about, I would say, 7 feet behind them is Richard Spenser's group. Probably about 40 of them. Walking down the middle of the streets. Now you can see the police officers continuing to tell me to back up. They are not playing games here, folks. They are not even letting the press near these guys. Now, some messages are being thrown out here by the white supremacists. But we don't know where they're walking to. We really have no idea. I mean, is there more of them somewhere else? We don't know. Is Antifa following them? They're planning on meeting up somewhere and getting into a little brawl? We don't know. So that's why you got to stay with us, folks. I mean, this is quite interesting. Highly disturbing to see. I mean, I must say, it would be hard to do something, though. It would be hard to do anything with this amount of police. The police presence here, compared to Charlottesville, is you know, I think that possibly some lessons have been learned. Look at this woman, or I don't know how to identify her. Him. It.
No one's sorrier than I'm married.
She is not happy, though, folks. Flicking the bird off here, calling them Nazis. We have no idea where they're going, folks, but we're going to follow them until we know. We're going to find Richard Spenser and we're going to ask him a question or two. Because supposedly Richard Spenser doesn't like the press. We'll see, you know. We'll see if he likes what questions I got for him.
Hey, Richard! Did you read the report from Charlottesville?
Richard
Did you
Spencer
read the
basically
police
being,
report
you
from
know,
Charlottesville?
he's
The new
known
one?
as like a
What do
demon
you think about that?
to a lot of his people.
Did you get your message
The
across?
leader of this white supremacist movement and has said some crazy controversial things in the past,
Where's my group leader? Who am I talking to? Which way you guys turning?
which is why so many people dislike him. Now you can kind of see this one officer here. He's kind of leading the show, directing orders to basically every officer and radioing orders to officers in vehicles to make sure that, you know, everyone's in the right position. This is true leadership.
Keep walking,
Richard
move out of the
Spenser
way.
is somewhere in the middle of this group right here, walking through the streets of D.C. They are occasionally, you know, shouting out some things, but being mainly quiet, just holding the American flags high and walking to an unknown location. Look at her. She's back. She's flipping the bird. We've seen her at a couple of protests. She pops up and just kind of gives her 2 cents in on the bike Always on a bike and always unhappy. Now, look at this line, though. I mean, I can tell you, folks, I think that the distance between Richard Spenser's group and us, it just keeps growing. The police are doing a good job here. And behind this group, folks, I might add, behind this group, you can't really see the shot that well, but there's like a line of police cars following them from behind. So it's blocked off. The streets are blocked off. I mean, this is jamming up traffic and everything. See, oh, another flip ball. So a lot of these people, I mean, we don't really know who they are. They're just figures of the alt-right or followers of Richard Spenser. Something looks like it's going on here, folks. This is weird. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Oh, there's Richard Spenser. Let's see if we can talk.
Where you going, Richard? Richard, where are you going, man? Richard, where are you going? Huh? Hey, look. Where are you going? What?
Back up for a minute, guys. Back up.
Whoa. Wow, folks. Okay, so Richard Spenser just got into his car. There was a car parked on the side of the road there. He just got in the car and fled. He had a group of his own security team with earpieces in, and they kind of just directed him to a car. I asked him where they were planning on going, and if he thought he got his message accomplice. Yeah. Now we're chasing down Antifa. We're going to go back and see what's going on here. Look at these police. Hey, so Spenser told me that they were going to Disneyland. That's what he told me, guys. So he's not known for liking the press. Was not happy with my questions, and he told me that they were going to Disneyland, which I highly doubt.
All right.
So we're back in Antifa camp here, I would call it for now. We don't know what they're doing either, but they're kind of they've stayed together, even though they were cheering just minutes ago that they had, successfully kicked Richard Spenser out of where he should be. Or where he wanted to be, I should say. But I mean, you can tell by this crowd that they're not as excited as they were just minutes ago. I think they think they got their job accomplished, and they're just maybe they're marching home. But you know what, folks? They could also be disappointed that there was not a fight. I mean, Antifa is known for being extremely violent and extremely irrational at times. So look at this. It's just kind of an Antifa, like a little camp.
Thank you for coming out. However you heard about this, thank you for the short notice of coming out. Thank you for showing our strength. Keep it up.
So they're going to be leaving in groups of 3 for safety reasons, they say. They say that this is going to be a strategy for safety reasons because they feel that people might be watching them right now as they leave and following them due to their stances. But I mean, it's pretty quiet over here in Antifa camp. And Richard Spenser just dipped out into a black SUV. This was, I mean, pretty weird. I mean, we could tell that something was going on. You could see the rest of the crew funnel down to the metro, to the train there. Our cameraman, Sean Mooney, got a good shot of that.
Thank you all so much.
Give each other hugs and feed.
They would not let us into the subway. The police actually blocked the subway off and let them in and blocked everyone else from going in, I guess to prevent violence in that subway, in that metro station. So now we're just going to be getting a quick, close look here at what Antifa's plans are. What's going on? What are they doing? Are they going to try to